Hey folks, Ben here with Feisty Chess. We are looking for a game at 1510 on leechess.org. I'm going to try round 2 after our victory yesterday. I'm looking forward to another game today. Flies. Armed with a little bit of kombucha left, just the hard stuff at the bottom. Maybe I'll get black instead of white today, but in any case, we're looking for a feisty kind of game. I use that word too much. A frisky, risky kind of chess game. I feel like yesterday's game, while a win and while I played alright, it's not the kind of fireworks I want to see. You can't force this on the chessboard, of course. You can't force that kind of thing when the position doesn't call for it. So let's hope the gods of chess give us something to remember today. First step is, of course, being patient for a match. Not nearly as many people play longer time controls, rapid as opposed to blitz. So I also don't think blitz, blitz is fine. It certainly is fun. It certainly has, it's hard to quit with blitz. But this pace of a game lends itself better to remembering your games, burns itself into your long-term memory, etc. Okay, we've got a game with Fakugamu, and I am black, so let's wait for Fakugamu's move. Rated 2240, looks like a strong opponent. Alright. D5, D4. I can either meet this with D5 or knight F6. I'm going to go with D5. Hoping for a Tarrasch Defense, where I take on a structural weakness, but in return get a lot of activity from my pieces. I like that kind of game. Okay, I'm gonna do that in here. Go for the Pseudo Tarrasch. If white gets C4 in at some point and then knight to C3, then we could transpose to a Tarrasch. Looks like we'll transpose to a symmetrical Tarrasch, which is pretty harmless, I think, for white. So I'm happy out of this opening. Okay, he's going B3. So he's planning on putting the bishop on B2. This is not Tarrasch main line. Knight to F6 is a flexible move. It's a move I want to play, so I'm going to play it. Got my new mic today, so hopefully the audio quality is better. Actually, it's not a new mic. It's an old one that I've hardly ever used or had occasion to use. It's been sitting in my basement. However, it's working out well. So I hope. We're listening to music from a video game called Surviving Mars. I've never played this game, but I've listened to the soundtrack. I've gotten quite hooked on it. I'm a big fan. Okay, he does follow up immediately with bishop B2. I can go bishop F5 or bishop G4 before playing E6. It's probably a good idea. D takes C5 isn't really a threat here. I can play E6 and get that back. Looks like without much trouble here. Although, maybe I should give that a little bit of consideration. I suppose he could play bishop. He could take, say I go bishop g4, he could take on c5. And then once I play e6, or better, e5 is better. e5 is better. If I play e6, he'd be able to jump in with bishop d4 and just cling to that pawn. I don't know if that's good for him, but it is an extra pawn. We can't be afraid of such things. I can at least get the two bishops as compensation. Yeah, bishop g4 will allow me to play e5 if he does take. He's probably considering taking. The other move that makes sense here for me is bishop e2. Break that pin that could be annoying. Seems already equal. E6, and we are on our way to getting castled. We got a nice pawn structure in the center. After I move my bishop, my dark square bishop, probably going to d6 with that. Yeah, it's the most active place for it. Now he might be likely to take. Yeah, because he's made me lose a tempo. It's not such a big deal for me. I have a big center, and my bishop is just as good on c5. That's the main line of the Tarrasch, actually. If you fret about losing a tempo with moving your bishop twice, the second time to recapture white's pawn, don't play the Tarrasch. It is a speedy opening, however. It is full of quick development. As you can see, I'm already fully developed for my minor pieces. Once I castle, stick my queen somewhere, I am basically done with the opening. And black's gonna castle. I'm gonna castle next move. Almost no matter what. With obvious exceptions. He's maybe weighing whether he wants to play c4 if he wants his knight on c3. I mean, he goes with knight to d2. He's really overprotecting f3 and maybe planning for a c4 push. We're just going to castle without thinking too much. We're even on time. Last time we got a little down. A little down on time. Okay. The idea usually is to get a knight into e4, and that can prove bothersome for white. Okay, he's striking at my center. Is d4 worth considering here? He's just taken c4 away from his knight. Okay. Got some interesting options here. I could also just keep my d pawn there and accept an isolated pawn. I don't need to do that, however. I could bring my knight to Let's just make a developing move. The rook definitely needs to go on c8. I'm not worried about an isolated pawn there. I'm actually used to playing such positions in the Tarrasch and would love to have that isolated pawn and the extra space that gives, along with extra mobility for my minor pieces. And my rook belongs on c8 because his last move c4 has indicated he wants to open the c-file. So I'd do well to have a rook posted there. Also kind of indirectly guards the bishop. That is my one undefended piece right now. Okay. Now he's making a threat of taking on d5. Now that he's put his rook behind that pawn, I think it might be time. Make this push? No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. My bishop hangs on g4. Okay, I can't push d4 because after knight takes, that loses me at least a pawn. He can take with the knight, and then it looks complicated, but I'm basically going to be down a pawn in most lines, I think. So I'm going to rule that out. I could just bring my bishop back to b6. d6 might be better. He might want to push c5 at that point, but I don't think that's good for him. Let's go back here. A lot of times I like to park my bishop on b8, and I can make provoke some weaknesses in white's king side by putting my queen on d6 or c7 and making mate threats on h2. So that's a theme that can come up. For these first few videos, I'm planning on sticking to my repertoire that I've developed, which relies heavily on Smith-Morra Gambit, as you saw last video, and also the Tarrasch Defense. The really nice thing about the Tarrasch, here we go, into the isolated queen-pawn position. Let me just say, the really nice thing about the Tarrasch is if they play d4 or c4 or even knight f3, you can set up the Tarrasch, and they don't have anything better than to play the white side of the Tarrasch at that point. So it's a very universal opening. So if my bishop had dropped back to b6 instead, I'd be considering knight takes, with ideas of like bishop takes on e3, threatening kind of a sacrifice, with ending with a knight fork on e3. But now that my bishop is here on d6, I think my knight would be happier to jump into e4. We're going to clamp down on that e4 square. We're going to accept this isolated pawn. This must be some kind of book position still. This is all very standard developing moves for each side. It's this kind of a ready system type approach. Okay, he wants to trade off minor pieces when I've got an isolated d-pawn. That's the strategy for the other side. I want to keep my minor pieces, and if we do trade minor pieces, I want to strengthen my pawn center. So he'll either take the knight or the bishop, probably here. Probably go for the bishop. That does give him the bishop pair, but the Nice thing about that is that's my bad bishop. You know, it's the bishop with the pawn in the center blocking it. It's also going to strengthen my pawn center. And then thirdly, it opens up a file that my rook is already on. So this is another theme in the Tarrasch. You often give up the bishop pair. You lose your central pawn on d5 becomes a lot stronger as a result. It might be better for him to take on c6 here, and then I'd have to consider whether I want to go rook takes or pawn takes. If I had taken his bishop on e2, that does trade off my bad bishop for his theoretically better bishop. His bishops are both pretty good. But it would allow him to develop his queen quickly and to place a rook on d1, which is where that rook wants to go on f1. Okay, he's just going to put sort of a redundant knight there. It's not redundant. I don't really like the look of knight g5. I could either play h6, or I can jump right in with my plan of knight to e4. I like the look of that. Yeah, knight to e4. It's good to get that in. I'm just playing that on general principles here. You got that isolated d-pawn, usually the central square that it covers. In this case, e4 is a great place for a knight. Alright. Ideas for white. Maybe just, well, he wants to get his queen off the back rank, probably. Queen d3 could be harassed by a knight, however. It's hard to know, hard to tell white what he should do here. Probably looking to trade off that knight for one of my pieces, either my knight on c6 or my bishop on e6. As for me, my queen is probably going to be at home on e7 or d7, and I might even consider f5, f4. Okay. I like the queen a little better on d7, just in case the knight wants to reroute to east through e7 somewhere. Also discourages h3, because then white would have to consider bishop sack on h3 with the queen backing it up. If he takes the knight, I'm happy. Yeah, I could recapture on e6 with the queen after bishop takes knight, and then d takes e4. If he goes knight takes e6, I always have a queen recapture. My rooks are connected. I'm looking at ideas like knight b4 to really force the issue, put the question to that bishop, does he want to trade it for my e4 knight? He could go knight b5. I always got bishop b8. My bishop's quite comfortable back there. Also watches over a7. Okay. White is at a bit of a loss for what to do, maybe? That tricky question of which minor piece should he capture is maybe preoccupying him. I can relate. Making tough decisions and making them quickly is one of the hardest things about chess for me. That's why general principles can be very useful. Or considerations of your style are also useful in those cases, if nothing else, to just help you make a decision. Do I like the two bishops? Is that really worth it? I'll go for the bishop then, if I were white. Or do I think the two bishops are kind of overrated in most positions? I don't know. These aren't the best ways to think about, those generalities aren't the best ways to think about decisions like this, but they are quick ways to think about decisions like this, and that means a lot. That counts for a lot, practically speaking. If he does take the bishop, I need to answer this question of how am I recapturing? I can end up with doubled e-pawns, which look kind of strange. If I go f takes e5, f takes e6. Queen going to d7 does allow him to plan another knight on g4 after a trade on e4. Sorry, g5. So I'm looking at bishop takes. Critical lines here appear to be bishop takes e4 and then d takes e4. And maybe followed up by something like knight to g4, knight to g5. Okay. Here we go. This is forced. That bishop on d6 does look a little bit loose here. And he could force... So the pawn structure is evened out for the time being, but I think my queen covers everything. I like that my queen covers c6, so I'm never forced to recapture with a pawn on c6. That wouldn't be ideal from an endgame perspective. So if he goes knight takes e6 here, I will be recapturing with the queen. Okay. I wonder if I can get away. I have to check this out. Okay, I'm looking at e takes f3. In which case he really has to move that knight. And has to probably take the rook on f8. But then I have queen g4, threatening a mate. Queen takes f3, queen takes f3, g takes f3, and then I recapture that knight, and I'm just down the exchange, right? Am I? No, I'm up 2 pieces for a rook. Okay, let's look at this. E takes... No, I'm down the exchange. I'm down the exchange. Okay. Man, this stuff is... Alright, my bishop is pinned if I capture with the pawn. Also, just that look of those pawns is not that great. Okay, queen takes e6, knight g5. I have queen g6, and then if he goes for knight takes e4, I can play... Ooh. Wait, no, I have... Okay. Queen takes e6, knight g5, queen h6 actually threatens mate and the knight. So he has to go knight h6. h3, I'm sorry. It's not ideal for that knight. But he is coming back in the game. Anyway, I think I need to do this. That's all. Not immediately urgent right now. If he goes knight d4, I think I need to take. Oh, or I got queen e5 there after knight d4. That looks promising, actually. Maybe. Got a good lead on time. That's good. So it's good to know your openings. I was able to play a lot of good moves pretty quickly, just by basic patterns that playing the Tarrasch over a few years has taught me. It could also be the pomegranate power of my kombucha. There's no question mark after my rating anymore. Apparently one game was enough to remind Lee Chess that, yeah, I'm about where I should be here. My rating went up like 60 points or so after last game. So that's nice. Knight g5, queen h6, knight h3. Then I have g5 as a threat. Not really. Okay, irrelevant though. Now, question is... Do I go queen? Maybe I'll go queen h6 here. Then he has to make a weakening move on the king side, and... I can bring my knight into the attack with knight to e5. Queen h6 looks good. Queen d4. He can deal with the mate threat, and then my queen is just sitting on that bishop's diagonal. The knight is kind of pinned, but not really. Let's go queen h6. There is a fork being threatened on f5 once he deals with the mate threat. What's taking look like? He can recapture 3 different ways. Let's just go over here. There we have ways of dealing with knight f5. Knight e7 is one. Even bishop b8 would be fine. this looks like here. But, ooh. F5 is one way of dealing with knight F5. That also plans knight F6. Sorry, not knight F6. It plans F4. There are some checks that the white has, but my bishop is still protected. I like the look of F5. I might need to slide my king over to H8 at some point, but I think things are turning my direction here. They're turning. No, bishop E8 might have been better. That prepares a battery, which would make him weaken this thing further. But F5 is good. F5 is good. It secures that big fat thorn pawn on E4 and threatens further aggression with F4. Good, good, good. Still a healthy time edge. Of course, that's nothing you're going to outright win the game on with a 10-second increment. 10 seconds is plenty of time to make decent moves, but if the position stays complicated, that 10 seconds is not going to be enough. Okay. I'm going to say let's keep the material on the board here. Yeah, let's take with the pawn. As I was saying, keeping things complicated. Just like our last game, we've got queen working laterally to protect a bishop, and it's not directly winning us the game like last time, but similar theme there. Lateral queen moves. Okay, he's not really threatening a mate there. But he is keeping an eye on E4 and looking at A7 as well. But taking on A7 has to be dereliction of queenly duties. Pardon me. That's the kombucha talking. Okay, I'm looking at C5. Then he's got the check. I'm looking at rook F6 as well. With the idea of rook to G6. If I go F4, he can take on E4. But then I've got F3. That's got to be good for black. I'll be giving up a pawn. And if he... He's got that check whenever he wants it on C4, but that doesn't gain him anything. Let's look at this. F4. Maybe rook F6 building up would be good too. That leaves my other rook unprotected. He's got queen G4 defenses in those lines. I gotta make a move here. Let's go with rook f6. And rook g6 will be a threat to take on h3. Okay. I don't think that move gets him anywhere. I'm pretty safe in this corner. Oh, I see. He wants my rook. Okay. Fair enough. I'll admit a mistake. He doesn't have a check. No, my a7 pawn is protected, and he doesn't have a check anymore if I go there. Okay. I'm the one with the time disadvantage now. I think that f4 just has to be played. I just feel it. I can't claim any kind of concrete line calculating here, but I feel good about f4. After queen takes, I think f6 is the move. Queen takes e4 is all but certain here. Yeah, okay, now I'm looking at f3. f3, f takes. Problem with queen takes h3 there is that means that's queen g4, and then I have to trade queens. I'm down a pawn. It's not looking too good, actually. Taking here looks a bit better. Okay. Opening up my pieces to attack his king side. He's got a... Bishop f4 is a threat if he takes with queen. So he's got to take with his e-pawn, and then I've got rook e7. Yeah. Is rook e7 good enough here? He's got that annoying check again. Better be good enough. I'm practically running on the increment now. So I am down a pawn, but I think he's got some king safety issues. Especially if I can get my queen on that same diagonal as the bishop. He's got to watch out for e3. I'm almost certain he'll play queen c4 check here. Thankfully he's spending a lot of time. I will immediately play king to h1 if he does that. King to h8, sorry. Okay, this gives back the pawn. Let's take the pawn. And now we've got to do this. I don't know if that pawn was worth it. I should have gone rook e8 instead of rook d8. There's a... No, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. He takes the bishop, there's no more back rank mate. Got that mate guarded. We're just attacking that bishop. I think I can just take the bishop. Yeah. Okay, he takes my bishop. Touché. Gotta keep the initiative. It's going into a losing end game here, but I think I have enough checks. He does have that rook guarded, so it's not really a threat, is it? He's not really making a threat either. Now he is. Let's get rid of our back rank problem. Okay, I'm just gonna go start grab some pawns. I think I'll grab another if you let me. Gotta guard against mates. Becoming kind of discombobulated here. Here comes the check. Oof. That check I did not see. Okay, there's but one move. I just hope I'm not getting mated here. He doesn't have a check other than queen f5. He makes it. And I have but one move, so let's make it. Probably check with the rook here. Could be in for a long one here. Okay. we're guarding things. That's good. Oh! That's bad. We are not guarding that checkmate. I did not see the threat. I was just looking at checks on the second rank. Okay. School of Hard Knocks here. I've been out of this for a while and didn't see a basic checkmate threat. So nice job, Fakugamu. Alright. Let's go back and look at it. You know, looking at the whole game hopefully isn't as painful as the ending. But this is how we get better. Alright, Tarrasch Defense. Happy about the opening. Yep, pieces going where they should. That's not a problem. Even though the bishop does come back to d6 later. Black is totally fine here. Taking on the isolated queen pawn. Getting the knight into e4. Bishop d6, I think. Yeah, no, I'm happy here. I'm happy. We've each gotten off. We've gotten rid of a pair of minor pieces, but I've also kind of got the initiative here. And I've solved my structural problems here. I might have missed my moment. Maybe bishop b8 was better here. Something else that could take the sting out of knight. You know, maybe queen f6 looks kind of radical here, but other moves I could have considered here. This did open up my king, and I should have found a chance to play king to h8. Maybe here. Rook f6 I think was a mistake. After this check, yeah, I've got to go back. Maybe I should have just gone king h8 and let him take the exchange. I've still got the push on the king side. I still think black is fine here. Maybe this was a mistake. But what else? Alternatives. Probably just rook e8. Or yeah, rook e8. I've got to have a lot of compensation for that pawn after rook e8. He could rook c to e8, I mean. Then he goes bishop d4, he protects that pawn. But then I play rook e4. And queen goes somewhere. There must be a way I can get my queen onto the diagonal with the bishop and stir some trouble up. But I went for material equality. It was really tight for time here. Rook d8 is probably the only move to save both the rook and the bishop. Where is it? Yeah. I can't take the rook here because he has a mate with queen c8. That's the problem. My queen is kind of out of play because I went for that bishop. So maybe queen e7 is the wrong move here. Actually, I could force a trade. I'm not really interested in doing that, though. Queen d7 doesn't really... gives me a piece on the back rank. Let's see. I don't think things are all that bad even here. Rook c5, probably just to make a move. Taking that pawn instead of maybe playing queen d4, getting that queen centralized is more important than that a pawn right here. I should know better. Yeah. This got me in some trouble. I just allowed him to make a mate threat. Right. I was planning on snacking on that b3 pawn, so again, I had pawn-grabbing mindset going on. But that's not possible when there's mates being threatened, which black had for a long time here. So this is a good move because it protects that... Yeah, protects that pawn on g6 with tempo. And now I gotta play rook g7, which I was looking at for some time. Rook g7 is the move, and I didn't see that threat. Yeah, rook g7, and I think black is gonna be okay. All right. Let's get out the computer. Probably has, yeah, equalish position here. Likes white a bit better. Says I should have gone rook to c8. Computer doesn't like losing a tempo like this. But this gives up the center, so... Okay. Computer doesn't like that too much. Says I should take. Oh no, likes my move. Bishop e6. Okay, knight in, yep. Doesn't like queen d7, it likes queen e7 a lot better. And it would... yeah. Queen takes e6. Okay. Yeah, maybe knight takes here before deciding what to do with the queen. Maybe. I've got the knight c5 ideas. It's difficult to play the Tarrasch in a relatively short time control compared to like a serious tournament like this, because your pieces have such mobility that there's a lot of options, a lot of things to look at. That can be a good thing, it can also be a bad thing if you're short on time. So knight takes c6, rook takes c6, rook trades again, and then b takes c6, queen c2. Yeah, this... computer doesn't like that. I'm not going to fret too much over that. It's not a huge difference. At my level, you need to worry about... okay, it's equal here, according to the computer. You need to worry about some different things. Okay, it does like queen d, e5. I was just saying that at my level, as opposed to like a international master level, you need to pay attention when the computer has larger swings. the subtler nuances of plus 3/10 of a point aren't all that easy to grasp, or even worth grasping sometimes, and they can be, frankly, they can be off sometimes. The best computer move might not be the best move you'd recommend to a human in a practical context. Okay. Queen there. It doesn't like queen h6. I guess queen to e5 forces a greater weakening, and then that f3 square is pretty juicy for a knight. It does pin the knight, and I just don't like how. I guess I can force him into a queen pawn, isolated queen pawn position with a lot of pieces traded off after maybe queen e5, g3, bishop c5. Does that make any sense? No, it doesn't make sense. It's very complicated, I should say. Okay. It's up a whole point for white. That's kind of crazy. It likes queen to f6. It wants to get back to d5 as quick as it can. Doesn't like f5. So takes. Yep, takes. And now this threat. Huh. Opponent played that. Yeah, that makes sense. Rook to d8 makes sense. I think king h8 makes sense here too, just to get rid of that annoying in-between check on c4 that white always has. But yeah, bringing a rook to d8 is a real threat, and it's added protection for our bishop. This is not a real threat. Oh, I didn't even consider rook to e6. I suppose that that works, but it's still pretty bad. I don't think the evaluation is going to hold that this bad throughout. Okay, it does like f4. Yep, takes. What's the point with bishop? Okay, it does like my move. Okay. I went with queen takes pawn here. Yeah. Oof, the pawn grabbing. That's a deadly sin. Yeah, king over. And here, ooh, he's got that, which neither of us saw. Ouch, bishop to f6. Winning the exchange outright. He missed it, and now we're equal. I looked at queen g3. I should have trusted myself in an endgame, but I just saw the end of that. I've got a real weak pawn on c6. Might already be a goner. So I shied away from queen g3. Let's look at that. Queen takes, bishop takes. I do have the back rank threats. I would bring the bishop to b8, not c7, but you can't just take. I got back rank stuff that protects that pawn. Interesting. Okay. Maybe I should have gone for that. That would have been a lot easier to play. I can play endgames a lot more quickly than I can play with queens and rooks on the board and open kings. So it liked queen e2. Another way to trade off the queens. Well, not necessarily. Yeah. Okay. Just go for the pawn. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I was too much of in a hurry to be feisty here. Yeah, that left open. That killer move. again, but he misses it. We trade bishops. Actually, black's not completely lost here. He grabs a pawn. Yeah, I make the right move. Ooh, putting more pressure on that way. That makes more sense. That forces... Oh! It just wins! It just wins. It's hard to find that kind of move in time pressure. Wow, black's best is just to give up a rook. Doesn't that give up 2 rooks? Yikes. Because if he just takes here, this is really dangerous. Probably leads to a mate pretty quickly. Yeah. Oof. Oh. The pawns get to play. Rook. Oh, that's a clearance sacrifice. That's beautiful. Clearing the diagonal, so this is, or this is a mate. No, what? What am I missing? That is a mate. Oh, this is some crazy computer stuff. Okay, okay. Actually, this looks simpler. Does this win? No. No. Wow, this is hairy stuff. This is just really hard to find the best moves. Look at rook takes h3. What a move. What if I set up this discovery? That's got to be good, right? Yeah, that's good enough apparently. Maybe could have found that, because then I can meet any checks. Well, this check I can meet like this, and he's now in check, and his king has no escape squares, so... Whew. Okay, I missed, bottom line here, lesson for the future, I missed queen to f2, a killer blow here, just going after that king. His pieces aren't coordinated enough to deal with that. Instead, I go after a pawn with a slow burn kind of attack, and he comes at me quicker. He says, take my pawn, I'll mate you, I have to deal with that. Then he's able to guard that threat. I go pawn grabbing, we're back to even. Just get my queen back. That would have been a better way to guard the mate. I didn't want to give up my a-pawn. I didn't want to give up my a-pawn. What foolishness. What foolishness. What if I did that and he took the a-pawn? Oh, it's the best move. But now I've still got this stuff. Okay, it's still a draw because the kings aren't secured. And that extra pawn isn't going to have time to get pushed with all the threats I can make to his king. So, yeah. Pawn grabbing and wanting to hold on to my own pawns, that led to my downfall. Still, he doesn't have a killer blow here. Yeah, rook g7 would have been good there. I even like this better, but oh my, that is worse. Yeah, that's obviously a blunder, but what about rook g7? I'm still completely lost. Oh. And I have no checks in the meantime. Now, why does it want me to give up a rook? What if I make an escape square? Check anyway. Check here. Oh, and we're just getting... King h5, g4, king h4, and then queen g3 is a mate. So the king has to go here. The rook comes back in with a vengeance. Probably lots of things are winning here, including rook f8. But let's look at g4. Now the rook comes here. I run this way, and there's that queen g3 once again with a different mate on g3. So, wow. This, however, is okay, because if black tries this now, I can check on a8, and I am in perpetual land now that I'm on the dark squares. Yeah, he's got to try something like this. There's... it's materially equal, and black has the initiative now. So, wow. So, don't be so concerned about pawns on the board when heavy pieces are all that's left and kings aren't super secure, obviously. These are things that I know, but it's difficult to apply them in a 10-second increment when that's all that's left in your clock. So, we better finish this. That's the lesson for today. A lesson which I hope I learned well. Thanks again for the game. Let's see, how do we back out of this? Alright. I will see you all on the flip side.